welcome to Designer Discussions with Jason, Maria, and Miriam. Today, we are talking about the power of processes and profitability with Katie Decker Erickson. Welcome to the Designer Discussions podcast with
Jason,
Maria,
and Miriam. Tune in each week where we talk about marketing, PR, and business advice for design professionals.
You all are going to love this episode. I've known Katie for a little while, and she just came back from High Point, so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But we wanted to have her on this episode because she knows a lot about processes, which we don't talk enough about. To be honest, on our podcast, we talk a lot about marketing, PR, business development, but you need to have your processes in order to really help the business grow. And so that's why we want to have Katie here. So how are you today, Katie?
Good. Thank you. I'm humbled and honored to sit with you all. It's lovely.
Awesome. So tell our audience just a little bit about who you are.
So long story short is I am a multifamily and commercial designer who's been in business nearly 20 years now. I've taught undergraduate and graduate courses and designed those for about 15. And when my firm got too big and I needed to really fine tune our processes, I stepped back from teaching and then I missed it a lot and wanted to step back into that space. And so now I'm a business coach to designers who are looking to take their 5 and 6 figure businesses and convert those into 6 and 7 figure businesses through a variety of good business practices. I bring my MBA to the game to really help them implement the business side of how to run a firm, which I absolutely love seeing other firms succeed. It's my favorite.
Awesome. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you here. So talk a little bit about why do we need processes in our businesses?
Such a great question. And it's not necessarily a sexy topic. Like you don't wake up in the morning and jonesing to create processes, right? We want to create mood boards. We want to give clients deliverables. And yet processes are the bread and butter that run behind the scenes. Like processes don't take vacations like your people do. They don't get sick. They don't go on maternity leave. And so it's so worth it to invest in them because they're going to keep working when other things fail. And ideally other things don't fail, right? But let's be pragmatic. We live in a real world where things fall apart. And so having processes in place prevents a lot of that from happening or catches the gaps when it does. And that is so powerful. And I think what really is important for designers to know is when you take the time to build these processes, it gets you back to doing what you love, which is creating, because now these systems are running and you don't have to be creating them. So you can get back to the business of creating.
I like that. I like that. And you had talked about profitability. So can you help explain that, how that connection between processes helps the firm become more profitable?
It's such a good question. And so, yeah, there's literally a direct link because we know when someone's out of the office, it's a day of lost work, right? But if the process is still going and people are still on track, we're not going to feel that day of lost work. Also, you can take on more projects and more clients when you have processes to push them through and you understand how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost you, what the protocol is going to be. And also it earns you more money from a marketing perspective, because when you sit with a client, you can say, we are a process-driven firm. This is one of my favorite things to coach to. You don't just keep quiet about your processes, you share them with your clients so they understand that you're not jobbying, as I lovingly call it, but this isn't a hobby for you that you want to get paid for on the side. You have systems and processes in place, and they're not buying just your creativity and your beautiful designs. They're also buying those processes. So they have a deliverable they can stand on, a date they can stand on, and they know how their project is going to get executed. And I think that's a huge thing for a lot of clients.
So we're hearing all this, and then I know on our audience side, they're hearing this like, this sounds great. But if they don't already have their processes in place, where do they start?
Such a great question. And I love, in fact, I was just sharing the stage with Rick Campos at High Point, and he said such a great thing. And I wish I could take credit for it, but I'm not going to steal it. He said, if you have a contract, you have a process. And I thought, that's it. That's your first process right there. If you have a contract, you're already talking about onboarding a client. You're talking about getting them through a signature. You're obviously going to need a retainer, some form of payment, right? All of this is part of your onboarding process. We just need to step back and look at it as a process instead of just a solitary task Because when we start stringing those tasks together, it becomes a process. And then we don't inadvertently forget one. And that's really what a process is we start looking at what are the systems that are going on that we just need to be able to write down somewhere rather, whether you're a dry erase person or whether you're a software person, which is what I absolutely prefer. It's just getting it down so that heaven forbid you get hit by a bus, someone can come in behind you and know right where that is at as well, right? Like there's some redundancy here that's really, really important too. But to answer your question directly, Jason, which is such a good question. If you have a contract, start there. Is your contract doing all that it needs to be doing? Are you fully protected? And I will say, if you have a 2 to 3 page contract, you're not covered. You're not doing what you need to be doing, well, because it's not going to address all your procurement policies, damages, installation, warranties. You need something a lot more holistic and beefy. I have yet in nearly 20 years of design experience to see a 2 to 3 page contract that does everything it needs to do for an interior designer when it comes to onboarding a client. So start there. It's a really easy place to start.
I know you're giving the credit to Rick, and we've had him on. Great guest. I know him, but how it was actually simplified into just if you have a contract, you have a process. I didn't even think about it. That's actually awesome. That's actually awesome. So since you just came home from High Point, give us a little insight into what you talked about while you were there, because I know you were on stage with him. And then what was your overall view on what happened at High Point?
Great question. So I had a great time at High Point and got to speak with Rick, Michelle Lynn, and Luann Nagara. We were all on stage together at Universal talking about this very topic and talking about the power of processes. Because I think because it's not sexy, like we said, people don't want to do it. But then it's like, okay, I know I should. Now there's the how. And so we really got into that. It was super fun. In fact, we started off with Luann as the moderator asking us questions. And about halfway through, she's like, you know what, guys? You all know that these are experts in their field. We're just going to open it up to the audience. And you're just going to hit them with your best shot. It was great. We had like 200 designers in that room. They had to turn away people. The recording hopefully will be on Universal's site soon. But it was just so good to sit in that space and have the conversation and hear the questions designers are asking about how do I use processes to scale? That was a big one. How do I let my clients know my processes? We even got into processes on communication. Like one thing that I love to coach to is how are you communicating with your clients so they know where their project is at? You should not be waiting for them to reach out to you. You need a communication process to be one step ahead of them and show that you're really caring about their project and nurturing their project and where it's at and where you're at in the process. And one of my favorite questions came from a designer who said, well, what if we're in procurement? Like, I don't want to spend hours explaining like, you know, in an email, like what's arrived in the warehouse, what hasn't arrived in the warehouse. And I said, sister, I feel you. First of all, your update can be as simple as 2 lines. We are working on your project this week and are in the middle of procurement for you. In fact, 80% of the items have arrived at the warehouse and we're closely monitoring the remaining 20% with an expectation they will be arriving by X date. Hope you have a great week. That's all that email needs to say. And that client goes, oh, cool. 80% of my stuff is in. Got their eye on the ball with the remaining 20%. And they're telling me when it should arrive. Amazing, right? Like how many texts and voicemails and weekend calls can be avoided? That goes back to the contract. Your communication should be in your contract about when they can reach you and when you'll respond by. If it's not, you need to revisit that. But how much of that can be avoided just by good, proactive processes again? And see, this all goes back to profitability. Because now all of a sudden we're not spending our time trying to back end manage clients. We're front end managing them so we can do what we want to do, which is create.
I love that. I love that. And oftentimes when I hear from designers and they say they're hearing the same thing over and over again, I'm like, well, that should be an aspect of your content too. You should put that in your FAQs. You should have a video on that so you don't have to repeat that same question over and over again. And that could be a part of the content that you have on your website, that you have on social media. When we're always complaining about, I don't know the type of content I need to have. Look at that. Look at that.
So wisely said. And there's a great nugget in there too. If you're doing something over and over and over again, it tells me you need a process.
Yep.
If you are reinventing that wheel every time, you're like, gosh darn it, I'm back to reinventing this wheel again. red flag alert. You need a process for that, because you should be spending your time back at the creative things that you aren't doing over and over and over again. Instead, you should have people doing that, or a dedicated time for you to do that, in a process to make your time most efficient, to just chisel through. And you don't have to be top of consciousness thinking, what is the next thing I have to do? Because the system is pulling you through it, that you've already thought about it. Changes the game.
So with the designers that you help and that you teach and coach, what are some of the questions that they ask you over and over again?
That's such a good question. The biggest one I get is like, if you want to scale, how do I take these processes? How do I scale them? And for me, it just comes down to software. There is a software for absolutely everything. By the same token, if you think there is one software that is going to do everything you needed to do, that's also a mistake. I like to say we have a beautiful menagerie of softwares, but it's really about being able to tailor it to what you and or your firm need. And that's one of the biggest things. Get it into a software. We talk about software all the time. What is the best one for you? Only you are going to know. And we kind of problem solve and work through that, so that when those systems are in there, then you have the ability to scale. Another big one is profitability. And confidence. Honestly, a lot of designers are afraid to charge what they are worth. And it breaks my heart. And I'm like, just because you love what you do doesn't mean that you can't charge for it. As I was just telling a coaching client yesterday, I said, it's okay to think in your head, you are lovely, you are billable. Those two things can coexist side by side very beautifully. Just because you have a wonderful working relationship with your client doesn't mean that they're not billable and that you have to give away your services by either deducting hours or not charging your full hourly rate. And if you're not in that 40 to 60% sweet spot after you have gone through and done your project and paid all your bills, if you're not making a 40 to 60% profit on your job, then we probably have a problem there. And we need to talk about, where are you at with profitability? What are your competitors in your market doing? What are they charging? Do you have a consistent pipeline? And if you have a wait list, I can tell you right now, you're not charging enough, because it's supply and demand, right? There's only one of you. If there's a truckload of clients, offboard your bronze clients, go for your platinum clients, and charge what they're worth, so that you're really maximizing your time and you're really working with the people you really want to be working with.
That's a question we hear a lot about, is the charging, are you charging enough? And oftentimes it's a mindset that, as you said, they don't think they're worthy, or that it's too much. How do you help designers, or how do you coach them to get past that mindset of being in their own head, to know they are worth it, to be able to charge more?
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And it comes back to that confidence quotient of just, you are worth this and it is okay. We wouldn't walk up to a painting, that an artist created, a Renoir or a Monet, and be like, I want a 50% deduct on that. Like, I really love it. Can you discount that? Exact same true as your design plans. They're pieces of art that you have created. And I talk to these designers every day. Y'all are pouring your heart and your soul into your clients and into their projects. And when you are shaving your legs and driving kids to school and getting your cup of coffee, you're chewing on that project, or you're perseverating on a problem about it, right? Like, you're putting a lot into this, and just pointing that out to them, that's okay to charge for that, because you're problem solving so they don't have to. I think that's the biggest thing. Our clients hire us not because they want to be involved in every detail. They hire us because they want us to be their easy button, right? We're going to solve that problem for them. We're going to fix that damaged item. We're going to work with the GC to make sure that the outlet's in the right location. We're going to make sure that every one of their pieces gets in. They don't care which pieces in the warehouse. They just need to know 80% of your pieces are in the warehouse. So I think that's a big thing too, is communicating with your clients and understanding they don't want to know every detail. They just want to know that you're caring and that you're on it. It's interesting to watch, and I'm coming back to your original question here, Jason.
Oh, no
it's
problem.
Interesting to watch their confidence change, though, when you feel like you're driving, or when the designer feels like they're driving the process and they have control of the situation. Their confidence about billing switches. It's one of my favorite things to watch. When we teach them how to implement processes, all of a sudden their confidence level in what they're doing and what they're providing goes up, And then usually their dollar amount does too. And that's really cool to be able to see them charge. They're not out here to make billions of dollars. They're just charging their fair market value for the work and the heart and the creativity that they're providing to their clients. And there's almost this direct correlation. When they start running their business like a business, all of a sudden they don't feel so bad charging what a business should charge. And I love watching them.
I know you personally, because we have this in common, because we love to teach, is when they have that aha moment and then it actually clicks.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you feel, because I know when I actually have that with the clients that we work with, when they have that aha moment, but what happens with you when they have that aha moment?
I love this question because like as a mom of daughters, like I so love it when my kids have that moment and something does click, but having it happen with my coaching clients is one of my most rewarding things because in some small little way, I feel like we've set off a ripple in the industry and I can't wait to see where it goes. I was just coaching yesterday, a woman who was actually in tears. And she's just like, it's just so hard. I lost my office manager and I just don't have my processes dialed in. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm just feeling really discouraged. And I said, you know what? It's okay. Go ahead and have your meltdown. This is a safe place. And then we're going to sit in your pit for a minute. We're going to decorate your pit and then we're going to climb out of it. And we're going to get busy putting the wheels back on the bus. Right. And by the end of the call, we had a strategy. We knew how we were going to get an office manager hired, where we were going to go, the people we were going to talk to, because we have a lot of overlap in people because, interior design industry. And it was so great. I got an email yesterday afternoon and she just said, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being kind and helping me to believe in myself. And it was just this lovely email about confidence boosting and all of it, completely unsolicited, of course. And it was just the most validating feeling of this is why I give back to the industry that's given so much to me, is because I want to see other people in our industry succeed in a significant way. And it is the best moment. I missed it from teaching so much. That's why I had to go into coaching because I couldn't give it up. Because if you're not changing the next generation, if we're not raising up the next generation of designers, and even the ones that are the same age or older than us, right? If we're not setting them up for success, like at that point, we kind of become like a leech, right? It's just, what are we taking? I don't want to be a taker. Like, I really want to make sure we're giving back like you guys are in this podcast and educating your audience and sharing with them and giving them the resources they need to succeed. Like, we have such an opportunity. And with that comes a profound responsibility, right? But such an opportunity to speak back into this space and share, because if I can have learned something the hard way and share it with my coaching clients and have them learn it the easy way. Yeah. I don't know about you, Jason, but that's like the most gratifying. Like, there's not even words to be like, oh, I just saved you so much headache. Yes, that's a win. Like, that makes sense. That's my why.
We actually had one of the episodes, we had one of the students I taught way back in the day, and she was just explaining about where she is now, and I almost teared up because I was so proud of where she is now compared to when I taught her. And, so I understand completely on that.
Yeah. It's the best feeling in the world. It's like when your kids like take off without their training wheels on for the first time, and you can tell they're scared and excited, and you're scared and you're excited, but we're all in this together and we're doing it. And then before you know it, they're going so fast by the window. You're just like, oh my gosh, don't hit the curb. Right. And when you see that happen with your, really affectionately, your coaching kids, but your coaching clients, it's just like such a rewarding thing to see them finally realize that they can do this and they can really get out there on two wheels and pedal at full capacity. It's awesome. It really is awesome.
We're talking about the next generation. So for any of the new designers that may be listening and want to head into their own firm and start their own small business, what advice would you hand them in terms of the processes that they need to have in place as to start anew?
That's such a great question. In fact, we put together a bundle, or we're right in the process of putting it together, but it's going to be the Start My Own Firm bundle. What do you need to know about insurance? What do you need to know about setting up your legal structure? What do you need to know about hiring your first person? What do you need to know about your brand and marketing? All of those things. That's something actually we're providing to our clients because of this very question. They're like, I just want a bundle of how do I start my firm? as far as your processes, figure out who you want to be. And it's going to morph in a little bit, and that's okay. But figure out what you want to do and what niche you want to go after. I always say if we're trying to be everything to everyone, we're nothing to no one. And so don't just be like, well, I hung out my shingle and I'm open for business. Like, okay, but if you're really going to open a business, there's so much to it. And there's a process for that even, right? Like you need to tell them you're going to open a business. Then you got to give them a discount to come to the business on the day that you're going to open it. Then you open the business, right? And you, once again, remind them that they need to come see you. And then you keep reminding they need to come back to you. And then once you have a client, you nurture that client relationship, because when they buy the lake house and they buy the cabin and they buy the second home. In fact, I have a coaching client like this right now. One of her clients is in Nantucket. They just bought a house in London, and she has nurtured that relationship and she's taken such good care of it. She's flying to London every month to finish out their London home, right? So having a process to really open those doors is important. And it really does have to start right at the beginning, knowing who you are and who you're going after. You're going to do high-end residential. Are you going to do commercial? Do you want to be in the restaurant arena? Figure out who you are and then do it so well that no one else can compete with you.
I love how you said you'll have to correct me if I'm saying it wrong. If you're trying to be everything to everyone, you're actually being not answering to no. Yes. Yeah. And that's almost like how we have in the marketing world. If we're trying to market to everyone, you're actually marketing to no one, knowing who that client avatar is and actually having that for them. So I love what you said there.
Yeah. I mean, really, if you just hang out a shingle and expect people to show up, it's just not going to happen that way. Go figure out who your people are. One of my greatest tips I give my coaching clients, go figure out where your clients are volunteering and where they're spending their time. And then get busy volunteering and spending your time there, because people hire people they know and that they trust and who run in the same circles that they do. So if your clients are all at the ballet, it's time for you to have a business expense and go buy the ballet for the season, and go find and spend time in the lobby during intermission and have that glass of wine and figure out who these people are and how they work, because they will show up for you if you show up for them.
I love that. So if anyone in our audience has learned anything from this, which I hope they have, and they want to reach out to you, Katie, how do they contact you?
Great question. I am at colorworks.coach, and it's just like what it sounds, COLORWORKS.coach. Come find us there. And if you're like, I just don't know, I'd like to talk to Katie a little bit more, I have a free 15-minute discovery call. Come sit with me. Let's talk about what are the pinch points, pain points. What are you struggling with in your business? Let's see if it's a good fit. No obligation. We've got some products over there as well that people are welcome. Those bundles that I was mentioning, those we're just getting ready to roll out the bundles. So I hope that they're there in time. But if not, I really challenge you to come say hi, at least introduce yourself, book the call so we can see how we can get you where you want to be in your business. And, it's not always scaling. Maybe it's just doing what you're doing better or becoming a more boutique firm. That's beautiful too. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't want to be the biggest kid on the block. Great. Let's figure out how to get you where you want to be, wherever that is.
I love it. Katie, thank you for this talk. I'm hoping our audience got as much out of it as I did. And I know that we need to have you on for a second to have you talk more about this. But I'd like to say again, we appreciate having you here today. And we hope to hear you all here in about 2 weeks in Designer Discussions.
I love it. It's been my pleasure and privilege. And thank you to all of you. It's been a distinct honor to sit with you today.
Your business is unique and your marketing should be too. Discover how to personalize your approach for SEO, PR, and beyond to attract more of the clients you love to work with. In our Academy membership, with us Designer Discussions podcast hosts as your personal coaches, we show you how to customize your marketing. With weekly live sessions, an exclusive community, practical resources, and expert guidance, we're here to simplify your marketing and boost your business. Sign up at designerdiscussions.com or follow the link in the show notes.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Designer Discussions and all of the helpful information. Subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. We look forward to having you back next week. For more information on the podcast and the marketing studio, visit designerdiscussions.com and follow us on social media.